Hey GED students, let's take a look at a pretty simple example that has some complex applications that if we understand it at this level, we're going to be better prepared to tackle what we're going to encounter on the GED non-calculator section. So, directions first. Draw a number line that spans from -10 to 10. Label each unit. Then use the number line you drew to answer the following. Now, fair warning, when you have this concept on the GED, they're not going to give you these directions. They're just going to ask you something like this. What is the distance on a number line between 5 and 0? But what I want is for you to be prepared to do this when they tell you that. Okay, so when they ask you what's the distance on a number line or what's the difference between two numbers, which means the same thing, just if you get stuck, try drawing your number line, okay? So it's a great first place to start. Now, again, on the GED, it tends to be complex. You're probably going to see some decimals. You might even see some fractions or some letters, variables, where you don't know the numbers. But this still, knowing this, understanding it at this level, we're going to be able to better understand it at that level. Okay, so enough lecturing. Let's get to it. So let's draw a number line that spans from -10 to 10. A lot of students think, oh, all number lines have 0 in the middle. Well, a number line goes on and on forever. We can look at any piece of it, okay? But this particular one, since I want to go from -10 to 10, 0 in the middle does make sense. And let's see, I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can I squeeze them in? 7, 8, 9, 10. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, -10. And I did ask you to label each unit. Hopefully you made your number line a little bigger than I did, so you had more space, especially for these negative numbers. But we can see that mirror idea. As I get further and further away from 0 on the left, I get less and less. I can see, though, getting deeper and deeper into the negatives. That's a good way to put it. You know, people want to say the negatives are getting bigger, but, you know, as you come out this way, you're actually getting smaller. So I'll say deeper and deeper into the negatives. How about that? So, A, what is the distance between 5 and 0? What is the distance between 5 and 0? Now, you might say, dumb question, Kate. Of course, the difference between 5 and 0 is 5. That's 5 units away. I mean, I could count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't really need to. Obvious question. Okay, obvious question. But look at the next one, okay? What is the distance between -5 and 0? And then students who told me the last one was obvious go, oh, duh, Kate, it's -5. And I'm like, distance is -5? How are 0 and -5 less than 0 apart? You know, no matter which direction I'm going in, I'm going to count the same way that I've always counted. It's not going to change distance or difference. So if I want to go from 0 to -5, I'm still counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to count distance. Or the other way around, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as I count distance. Again, not value of the point, but distance from 0. And so this is also 5. And this, by the way, guys, even though this problem didn't say that, is absolute value. This is saying in words what I say when I do this. What is the distance between 5 and 0 is the same as saying what is the absolute value of 5. And what is the distance between -5 and 0 is the same as saying what is the absolute value of -5. So that idea, that distance or absolute value, distance from 0, is always positive. Okay, but now let's look at some ones that are not necessarily the distance between 0 and a number, but two non-zero numbers. So like, what is the distance between 5 and -5? Our number line's getting a little messy. Let's pick up another color. Okay, so now I want to get from -5 to 5. And newbie students have a problem of treating those like they're the exact same point. They're clearly not the exact same point. They're far from each other. Okay, so if I want to find the distance between them, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to 0, but then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to 5. And so the distance between them is 10. And I have a lot of students who say, Kate, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all because you told me that distance is the same as subtract. And isn't 5, if I subtract 5 and -5, doesn't it give me 0? And I just like to say that, A, it doesn't make sense visually, so it can't make sense mathematically, you guys. Truth is truth is truth, no matter which way you try to go about it. But the problem here is that you didn't do what you thought you did. Okay, you thought you subtracted 5 and -5, but you didn't. You subtracted 5 and 5, positive 5. So what you just did there was you figured out how far 5 away is from itself. It's no far away from itself. It's 0 far away from itself. If you wanted to do this problem, the distance between 5 and -5 mathematically, yeah, you could subtract, but you would have to take 5 minus -5. And then you might say, Kate, well, you didn't minus. Look at that answer down there, 10. Well, remember, if we take away a negative, we learned about opposites, right? If we take away subtraction, we take away a negative, or we take away subtraction, what we're doing here is we're doing opposites. That's the same as 5 plus 5. So yes, subtracting a negative number is the same as adding. And that's how mathematically we would end up with 10 like we did when we did it visually. Okay, enough lecturing. Let's look at it the other way around. What if I'm looking for the distance between -5 and 5? Well, it doesn't really matter which direction you go in. No matter if you go left to right or right to left, you're still going to have the same number of jumps, right? So still 10. And then again, we're just reinforcing that idea that distance or difference is always positive. I don't care which number I list first. Okay. So what is the distance between 3 and 7? Let's get another color again. Let's see. 3 and 7. We can literally just count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or we could have subtracted now. But if I were going to subtract this, oh my goodness, I deleted it. That's okay. So I had just said 4. And again, we could just subtract. But if I were going to subtract this, I wouldn't do 3 minus 7, would I? Because that would give me a negative answer, -4. And so I would manipulate this if I were doing it on paper and not counting, like if I were doing it with numbers and not counting, so that the bigger number came first so that my answer would be positive. Or, of course, don't panic because you don't have to do it this way. But like we talked about, if you like that order 3 minus 7, cool, fine. I don't care. But make sure you enclose it in absolute values. Because if you only have 3 and you take away 7, you guys, yeah, you have 4, but you have 4 in the whole. You took away more than you had. So then as a final step, we would have to take the absolute value of that so that we did have a positive 4 answer. Nice. Okay, almost done. What is the distance between -3 and 7? Let's get back to my number line. I'll just get back to -1, -2, -3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, awesome. So obviously the distance between +3 and 7, well, that was a lot closer, right? It was only 4 steps away. But -3 and 7, -3 is a lot further away. So a lot of you guys will tell me it's the same thing, right? It's 4. And again, it's that mistake that you make. You say, well, I have a 7 and I'm going to subtract with that -3. And you didn't just subtract with -3 if you write that. So this is the idea that if I have 7 and I'm going to find the distance, I can subtract, but I got to subtract -3. And like we said, the opposite of subtraction or the opposite of a negative is a positive. So that's the same as 7 plus 3. But I don't have to remember these rules. I mean, rules are great, don't get me wrong. But if you don't know where they come from, look at this number line. Look at it. If I want to get from -3 to 7, they're far apart. I'm going to have to go all the way from 7 to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's that 7. But then I'm going to have to keep going. I'm subtracting still a -3. I keep going. 8, 9, 10. I'm 10 units apart. So what is the distance between -3 and 7? It's not 4 like students will tell me. It's 10. Of course, the distance from 7 to +4, or I should say, sorry, of course, the distance from 7 to +3 is a shorter distance. It's a smaller distance than the distance from 7 all the way to -3. If you're getting the same answer in both situations, that does not visually make sense, guys. Any math you do has to line up with real world pictures and real world scenarios, or it's just a bunch of nonsense you tried to memorize. Okay. Ooh, that was challenge. How you doing? You okay? Whew, shake the dust off your feet. Keep on marching on. You're doing great. We're building that mathematical reasoning.